Hello, welcome into episode 7 of Talk with Tati. I'm Tati, and today we will be discussing PCOS, also known as Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. I know in my last video I said that I wanted to maybe do something with true crime, but that definitely takes a lot of preparation, so I decided that PCOS is something that affects a lot of women, and it's something that's not widely known, so I just thought today I would bring awareness to that condition. So you may be wondering, what is PCOS? I got you. I'm going to give you the whole rundown, all the details, how I deal with it, typical treatments, all the good stuff. So I'm going to give you a whole 411. So polycystic ovary syndrome, commonly referred to as PCOS, is a hormonal condition that affects women, and it's typically found a little bit after puberty, so like 15, 16 age, but it is something that affects women of childbearing age. So with it being a hormonal disorder, it is a disorder that disrupts most women's menstrual cycles and causes a plethora of all the other problems. PCOS affects 5 to 16% of the US population. So that's 5 million women. And that's just people that have been diagnosed with PCOS. So that's a very large number. And a lot of people have probably never even heard of PCOS unless you have it or unless you know someone who has it. The thing about PCOS is, although it's a very common disorder, it's not very widely known and still not very widely researched. But what they have found is, well, I guess what they haven't found is what actually causes PCOS. They speculate that it could be environmental or it could be genetic, but as of now, there's no known cause behind PCOS. So PCOS, what it does to the body is it disrupts the naturally occurring hormones in the body. So you may be exposed to higher amounts of androgens, which is typically the male hormone. You would have higher levels of testosterone. And with androgen is the hormone in your body that stops ovulation. So ovulation is part of your menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is like 28 days. And so ovulation is a part of it. And of course, we know ovulation is for childbearing, but it's still important even if you're not wanting to have kids at that particular moment or ever, because those menstrual cycles are needed, so that ovulation is needed. And PCOS causes you not to really have regular cycles, and that can lead to a whole bunch of different problems. Something I didn't know about PCOS that I know now from researching it is there's 4 different types of PCOS. So we're going to go over the 4 different types, and then I'll kind of go more into what the symptoms of PCOS are, what kind of things it causes, how you can treat it, and then all that good stuff. So insulin-resistant PCOS is the most common type. 70% of people with PCOS have insulin-resistant PCOS. What that is just what it sounds. It's polycystic ovary syndrome that causes you to have issues with insulin resistance. Personally, for me, this is the type that I have. I do have issues with my body's insulin. So what happens is when you have PCOS and you have insulin-resistant PCOS, your body overproduces insulin because through the whole hormonal process, it's not connecting with your pancreas and telling your pancreas like, hey, this is normal. So it overbalances or it overproduces to make up for that miscommunication. So what ends up happening with your pancreas overworking, your insulin levels are higher, and that puts you at risk for type 2 diabetes. Since your cells aren't properly communicating and your pancreas is overproducing, it's leading to things like weight gain. If you have insulin-resistant PCOS, you may notice that you have a hard time losing belly fat. For me, no matter how much I work out, how small I've gotten, I've always had the issue with belly fat. And that is a #1 thing with the insulin resistance, is that belly fat. Also with insulin-resistant PCOS, you may have brain fog, you may feel drowsy, you may feel fatigue all the time. Those are also things that I struggle with having PCOS. So if you find yourself commonly struggling with that, maybe time to go see your doctor, because those are very big indicators. So that hard time losing weight, always having weight in your stomach, that brain fog, fatigue, drowsy. Sugar cravings is another one, and I always crave sugar. It's insane how much I crave it. Even though I don't even eat sugar, I don't drink soda, I don't really eat chocolate anymore. I don't eat sugar, but I still have those intense cravings. So this type of PCOS is always diagnosed with a fasting insulin test. That is the only way that you can diagnose this. I know the name is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. I'll get a little bit more into the name, but it's not necessarily cysts on your ovaries that mean you have polycystic ovary syndrome. They look at your testosterone levels, that fasting insulin level. They may do an ultrasound, but it's ultimately they're looking at your hormone levels, and that's how they typically diagnose PCOS. The second type of PCOS is post-pill PCOS. That was a mouthful. That was a lot of P's, I'm sorry. But post-pill PCOS, and what that is just what it sounds like. It happens when you stop taking birth control pills. When you're taking birth control pills that are progesterone-based, when you stop that, your body, because it's synthetic, your body is kind of confused. It's like, whoa, wait, what's going on? So what it may do is actually cause you to have symptoms of PCOS. And you'll typically see the onset of this type of PCOS 3 to 6 months after you stop taking your birth control pills. The way that it's not permanent, as insulin resistant PCOS, there's no cure. You just have treatment. Post pill PCOS, you can actually reverse that with lifestyle changes. So like exercise, diet, watching your sugar intake, all the basic stuff. The third type of PCOS is adrenal PCOS. So what that is when your body is producing, it's pretty much too much adrenaline that's causing this type of PCOS. So since this is an adrenal onset PCOS, what that is it's your body's stress response. So if you have too high of a stress response in your body, that can actually cause you to have these symptoms of PCOS. This last type of PCOS isn't something that I would ever expect, but it makes sense. So the last type of PCOS is inflammation PCOS. And what that is when you have chronic inflammation in your body. So when you have chronic inflammation of your ovaries, what happens is it overproduces testosterone. With that overproduction of testosterone, it causes those issues with ovulation, and it kind of causes like those same symptoms. People have problems with joint pain, of course, with the inflammation. They may have bowel issues, issues with their skin like eczema. So this one, it's not something you would really think would cause PCOS because it's inflammation, but it does, because if you think about it, your ovaries are inflamed, they're producing too much testosterone, it affects your cycle, so it delays your cycle, so it gives you those same symptoms as all the other types of PCOS. Those other three are not as common. Like I said, 70% of people have hormonal PCOS. That's the most common, but that's not the only type. So I just wanted to kind of go over that so that everybody's aware that there are the 4 different types. The symptoms do overlap. They are pretty common, but the way they're diagnosed and the way that they commonly present may be slightly different. So now that you have a little bit of a basic understanding of the types of PCOS, I kind of want to get into the symptoms of PCOS. So the most common symptoms you'll have acne, weight gain. I know a lot of women with PCOS, and myself personally, you'll have facial hair, mustache, beard. I'm Puerto Rican, Italian, Black, so I already have a lot of hair because of my genes. So PCOS just makes everything so much worse, but that is one of the symptoms. Oily skin and hair is also something that's very common. I also struggle with this one. I have to be very consistent on my skincare routine, and I have to be very consistent with my hair, or it's just a whole mess. Another symptom of PCOS, this has to do with the insulin resistance, so you'll commonly see this in diabetic people too, but you'll have the darkened skin, and I do deal with that. I don't know if you can't really tell on camera, but I used to be very insecure about it. I don't really care anymore. But darkened patches, you'll see it on the neck, under the arms, in between the thighs. So that's typically something you'll see with PCOS. That also is a sign of it. Like I said, it's also a sign of diabetes, but that is something that you will see in PCOS due to that insulin resistance. Another symptom that's the very, very most common symptom, and it's the one that usually leads to people going to seek a diagnosis, is the irregular periods or no periods together. I was gonna say period, but you may also see baldness or hair loss associated with PCOS. Thankfully, I don't have that. I've always had thick, longer hair. I mean, I know I cut my hair off, but my hair has always been thick and longer, so I'm so thankful that I don't have to deal with that. But that is a common symptom that women with PCOS do deal with. Another thing that you will commonly hear about, but I wanted to kind of put an emphasis on, is people with PCOS have a hard time conceiving. I know plenty of people who have PCOS that have multiple kids. So that's not saying that you can't get pregnant with PCOS. It's just saying that it's a lot harder for a woman with PCOS to get pregnant than a woman without, because we do have the issue with our cycles. So we don't ovulate normally. The ovary part of polycystic ovary syndrome comes in because the follicles of the eggs and everything during the whole ovulation cycle. Not a science major, so I'm not going to get into that, but pretty much during the ovulation cycle, you have your egg, it starts to do what it does, but PCOS makes it to where it stops. So you'll just have these follicles just chilling all in your ovaries, and they mimic cyst. So that's why it's called polycystic ovary syndrome, because of those follicles. So because of those follicles, of course, they're not going through the full ovulation cycle. So without a full ovulation, you don't really release an egg, so you really don't get pregnant. But don't get your hopes up, or don't get your hopes down, I should say. There is hope. Like I said, a lot of women with PCOS have kids. It just typically you have to see a specialist, sometimes an endocrinologist, depending on the type of PCOS you have and the type of symptoms you have. So it's very possible to get pregnant. It just takes a little more and a little more intervention and a little more than just the typical to make a baby, you know. So like back to what I was saying with the follicles and everything, there is a little bit of research and a little bit of pushback with the name polycystic ovary syndrome, because it's not really cyst is what they're kind of finding. It's just those follicles. So the name's a little misleading, but all in all, everything I've told you, it's all polycystic ovary syndrome. The symptoms, the signs, all still the same. There's just a little debate on the title. I've also found in my research that men can also have something that mimics polycystic ovary syndrome. Of course, it's not exactly the same because we have different makeups, but they do have things that can mimic signs of polycystic ovary syndrome. So as I was saying, polycystic ovary syndrome is typically diagnosed through blood work. They may also do an ultrasound, but blood work is the diagnostic method that should be used when you go to your doctor and you're wanting to know if you have PCOS. They should be checking your fasting insulin. They should be checking your testosterone, your hormone levels. They can do an ultrasound. I had one done because I didn't know I had PCOS. I had a really crappy doctor who didn't want to do anything for me. She kept telling me just to lose weight, which if you listen to me talk this whole time, you know that weight gain and weight loss are it's bad with PCOS. It's easy to gain weight and it's hard to lose it, and it's hard to keep it off. It's like you have to work 10 times harder than the average person to lose weight. So being told that you just need to lose weight for your problems, it's very invalidating, and it's something that many women will deal with, especially women of color. So I had this doctor, and she didn't really ever want to do anything for me, but I was having irregular periods. When I would have periods, my periods were horrible. I used to get cramps that would shoot down into my knees. It was that bad. I would just be nauseous, just the worst period symptoms ever. And I had trouble losing weight. I was always tired. I had the fatigue all the time, and I had headaches all the time as well. And it wasn't normal. So we went to the doctor. My doctor didn't want to really do anything, but my mom pushed for a referral at least to a gynecologist. So I got that referral, went in for an ultrasound. Okay. Let me reverse it. I went in for the ultrasound first, and the ultrasound tech looked at me and she was all like, I can't really, because she's an ultrasound tech, she can't tell me what's on it, but she was like, I can't really tell you what's on here, but I have this condition called polycystic ovary syndrome, and I'm gonna give you this pamphlet. I want you to go read up on it, see what you think, and mention it to your doctor. And I'm forever grateful for that woman, because that radiologist did something that made a huge change in my life, because when I went to my doctor was all like, oh, your ultrasound looks fine, there's nothing wrong. But because that ultrasound tech told me like, hey, there's something on here, I want you to read on this, I pushed harder and I advocated for myself a little better than I would have if she wouldn't have told me that. Okay, so fast forward, I got that referral to see a gynecologist after pushing my doctor to give me one. He looked at the ultrasound, he showed me all the cysts. He was like, you've got 40 or 50 of them on your ovaries, and he pointed them all out to me. He showed me everything. He was like, I want to do some blood work with you because I'm pretty sure this is what you have, but I just want to make sure. And like I said, blood work is how they diagnose, not the ultrasound. Cyst can come from anything, so that blood work is very important. So of course I had to fast and everything, did the insulin, did the blood work. They looked at my testosterone levels, my androgens, my estrogen, everything. And that's when they came back and they diagnosed me with PCOS. I know I got a little off, but I'm glad I did, because I just want to throw that in there, that you have to advocate for yourself. Because like I was saying, as women, we're not always taken seriously. We're always kind of seen as overreacting. We're soft. But a lot of the times when we say there's something wrong, there is really something wrong. But we're so often invalidated that we don't feel like we have to advocate for ourselves. So I'm really glad I did. And I really hope you do as well, because if you're dealing with these symptoms and the struggle, PCOS for some may not be bad, but I don't think I've ever met someone with PCOS who doesn't have a horrible time with it. And with having PCOS, of course, there's no cure. You don't really get rid of it. Of course, with the post-pill PCOS, that would go away. But typically, PCOS does not go away. It's lifelong. It runs the course of your whole childbearing years. So that's like, I think from like 12 to 50. So that's a very long span of your life to have to deal with these. But I have good news for you. Although there isn't a cure, there are many treatments and many things you can do for those symptoms and to help you deal with those symptoms and manage your PCOS. So the most common form of treatment that you will have with PCOS is they'll typically put you on a birth control so you can get more of that synthetic hormone progestin, so it balances out your androgens and your testosterones. So you'll get that. You may also take a diabetic drug. I took metformin. That's the most common diabetic medicine they will give you for PCOS. And now they give you that diabetic medicine because with most women with PCOS, they do have that insulin resistant PCOS. So that metformin helps to kind of balance out that regular insulin level so that your body isn't overcompensating and overproducing, because like I said, with that, you run the risk of actually developing type 2 diabetes, and that's never fun. So that's kind of a preventative and a treatment measure for PCOS. For me personally, I was taking birth control and metformin for like 6 years of my life. I stopped taking it so the birth control I stopped taking last year because, as I said before, my depression was really bad, and I think it was a lot of hormonal aspects, which PCOS also causes, but it got to the point where it was just too bad for me, and I was like, I can't do it. I asked my doctor, like, hey, can I come off of this? Now, let me say, you don't need permission, but it was more so me asking because I don't want to do more damage or more harm to my body, because when I was initially diagnosed by the gynecologist, he was an amazing gynecologist, but he left Oklahoma, of course. But when I was first diagnosed, he told me that if I ever want to stop treatment, so stop birth control, I do need to consult with a doctor, just because you can cause some problems with coming off of birth control. Luckily, the detox for me was fine. I mean, I had like my face and stuff was all broken out, but obviously my skin's cleared up with my skincare routine. But besides the physical problems getting off birth control can cause, there's also, with PCOS, because of the lack of periods, you typically have a thicker lining, which can lead to cancer. So you do run a higher risk of that. So that's also another reason why they want you to check in when you're doing that, so they can check and make sure your lining is still thin. But luckily for me, my body has regulated itself out. I will get more into what I've done to help myself naturally deal with PCOS, but that is my experience. I'm not saying birth control and metformin is bad, but I just prefer not to be on birth control. It was doing me more harm than good. And the reason I got off the metformin was because metformin, and if you've ever heard of it, it is a very, very harsh medicine. Like, I'm telling you, the kind of stomach issues you have with metformin is like IBS times 10. Like, for instance, when I first started taking it when I was a teenager, I had stomach cramps that were so bad that I was just like doubled over on the toilet just holding my sides because it was so bad. And I know that's graphic and that's TMI, but those cramps are so bad. And I kind of had done some research because one of my friends had mentioned some stuff to me about what they're finding with long-term use of metformin. And I found in my research that metformin depletes B12. And I guess you can always, or you can compensate by taking supplements, but I just prefer just to kind of do things in a natural way. I wouldn't say holistic because I'm not against medicine, but for me, I would say I prefer a natural approach if at all possible. I talked to my doctor and everything, and I decided that I wanted to come off my metformin, but with coming off my metformin, I had to make some really serious lifestyle changes. And like I said, I'll get into all that later because I don't want to keep jumping back and forth and confuse everybody. So you have metformin, birth control can help. Also, obviously, lifestyle changes. So better diets. I'm not saying go do the keto diet because I feel like diet fads like that are not good for you. There's also been some research that the keto diet can be dangerous on your kidneys. I haven't gotten deep into that, so I'm not going to go into that, but I have seen that it can be dangerous. And also with things like that, if you're doing something very rigorous, if you don't stick with it, once you stop and go back to your regular eating habits, you just gain it all over. So actual lifestyle changes such as eating balanced meals, watching your sugar intake, just being conscientious, working out. I do want to throw in there with working out, with the adrenal PCOS, you have to be careful with high intensity workouts because that adrenal PCOS is caused by that overproduction of your adrenal response or your stress response. So high intensity workout can cause some issues with that. So very important that when you are diagnosed, you ultimately have that talk with your doctor to see what you can and can't do. But typically exercise is good. As I was saying, like supplements can be really good. You want to be careful with those. Like I said, not everything you see on the market is safe. You need to do your research, be informed, speak with your doctor or nutritionist, just be an informed adult when you're doing these things. Also, something that's very important for almost anything, but we all neglect, is our sleep. We really, really, really need sleep, and we need our relaxation, and we need time for our body to compensate and heal. So with PCOS, making sure you're getting your sleep is very important for a treatment. I didn't know that till I did research. It makes sense because of all the symptoms, but all in all, don't neglect your sleep. Make time for your sleep. Make sure you have that downtime. I know it's hard when we work and we have things to do, your parents, but that sleep and that rest is very, very important for PCOS and for life in general. Along with sleep, you want to reduce stress, even though it's not like maybe you don't have the adrenal PCOS, but you still want to reduce stress because stress can affect your whole body. I've discussed that in some of my other videos, but minimizing stress and making sure you're getting your rest is key. So I've given you a little bit of details about the signs and symptoms, the treatments. So I kind of want to just go into my own personal experience and what I've done to treat my PCOS since I've been off birth control and metformin. So a big thing that I do to help treat is exercise. I have been actively exercising for like a year and a half. So I make sure I'm in the gym at least a few days a week. And that's really important because it's helping me to lose weight. It's also helping me to make sure I'm having healthier fats in my body and not so much unhealthy fat. It helps with your cholesterol and just all kinds of things. So exercise is one thing that I've been doing. But I will say with exercise, if you do not have a balanced diet, you won't lose weight, because I was working out for like a year straight And I was not losing weight. I was just toning up and getting muscular, but I was not like physically losing weight. I wasn't getting smaller. And it's because my diet wasn't balanced. So I participated in this 8-week weight loss class back in April. I actually was the biggest loser for that class. So what that means is I lost the most weight in that class. So I was very happy and I was very surprised because, like I said, I'd been working out for a year straight and I never lost any weight. Today is June. It's the 22nd of June. Didn't know the date. Today is June 22nd. And I have lost, I would say, about 25 pounds since January. So I started out this year at like 255. I weighed myself the other day. I'm at 233. I think that's 25 pounds. We've discussed that I'm not very good at math, so I'll let you do the math if you care to do the math. But so I've lost that weight by having a balanced diet. So what I mean by that is I don't do keto, I don't do any crazy fasting, nothing like that. I just eat normally. So in the morning, I'll typically drink an Activia. Activia is full of probiotics, so I really like that just to kind of help with my natural flora and stuff. But I make sure I drink my Activia. You should have a full meal at breakfast, but I'm not a breakfast person, so I drink the Activia. Sometimes I'll eat an apple because it's light, but it's filling. For lunch and dinner, I make sure that I have a protein, a starch and carb, or a veggie. So I'll have like chicken, I'll have a carb, like mashed potatoes, macaroni, and then I'll have a veggie such as green beans, spinach. You do have starchy veggies, which is fine, but you know, that's a dietitian talk. It's just what I learned in that class. But it is important that you have, so part of your plate should be your protein, part of your plate should be your veggie, and then part of your plate should be your carb. And with doing that, it's really nice because I don't really cut out anything. I mean, I don't drink soda. I haven't drank soda for almost 3 years. So that's not anything hard for me. But cutting out the sugar, I am a chocolate lover. I cut out sugar. When I crave sugar, I try to eat something like an apple or fruit, something with a more natural sugar, because I do find that's helpful. So that's a good substitution. But I'm not keeping myself from eating things. I'll still occasionally eat some cake. I'll eat something I really shouldn't. I'll occasionally eat some fast food, but I'm still losing weight. It's just about that balance and making sure you're not starving yourself, you're not restricting yourself. That is the worst thing you can do with weight loss, is restricting. Moderation, moderation, moderation. You always hear that, but moderation is definitely key. 'Cause like I said, I've lost all this weight. I'm not gonna give up candy. I love sweets. Of course, that comes with PCOS. The sugar cravings. I love sugar, but I'm just more moderate with it. And then I have my plate. It's called the pick your plate method, but I have my protein, my veggie, and my carb. I don't cut carbs. I know with the keto diet, there's some kind of, it's either low carb, high protein. I don't do that. I make sure I have a good balance of everything so that I'm not starving my body of one thing. And also, the keto diet is not recommended for someone with PCOS, especially insulin-resistant PCOS. I tried to do the keto diet a few years back, and I felt like I was going to pass out. You do not want to do that when you have that insulin resistance, because you can do some serious damage to your body. So please, 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 if you're wanting to lose weight and you're wanting to manage your PCOS effectively, you need to do it a natural way. Don't cut calories. Don't do anything that's unhealthy and something that a dietitian would advise you not to do. Seeing a dietitian is really good. I know with the Oklahoma County or Oklahoma Health Department, I went through Oklahoma County, but I'm pretty sure all the counties in Oklahoma have a health department, but I'm in Oklahoma County, so I went through the Oklahoma County Health Department, and the class was 8 weeks. It was free. I got a weigh-in. They checked all my levels at the beginning and at the end so I could see my progress. So, you can always go on like the health department's website. You can find those classes. If you're not in Oklahoma, I'm sure your state has it too, but that is a resource, and I definitely recommend, if you have PCOS, going to get some help with your diet, because that ultimately is what helped me. Not only did being more conscientious about what I'm eating and making sure I'm eating balanced meals, eating 3 meals a day, eating snacks in between, not starving myself, not going hungry. Not only did that help me lose weight, but it has also helped me regulate my periods. And I know in the beginning I had made a comment about how they usually, like, I had doctors just tell me, oh, just lose weight and it'll solve your problems. Yes, losing weight does help with PCOS, but losing weight with PCOS is a problem in itself. So that's why I'm trying to tell you what works for me, because in the beginning I felt like it was really hard for me. But something that's different from when I was originally trying to lose weight to now, I'm single. I'm not carrying any dead weight anymore. So I'm not as stressed. I'm a lot happier. So my body isn't holding on to that stress. I'm losing fat. I'm able to lose weight. I'm able to have more energy. And it's just really helpful. So that's why I was saying minimizing stress is important as well. But I've been able to regulate my periods. If this is something you don't want to hear about, fast forward maybe like 15 seconds. But I actually have had a regular period, I think, for the last 6 months. That's a huge accomplishment for me having PCOS, because I've never ever had a regular period when I wasn't on birth control. So now on birth control, haven't been for a year. Everything's regulating nicely, so I'm very happy about that. But that weight loss, that exercise, watching my sugar intake, all I really drink is water. I don't drink soda. I used to drink a lot of juices and stuff, but I am finding that now that I'm kind of living a healthier lifestyle, I can't really handle sugar as well. Like sugary drinks on my stomach, they make me extremely nauseous. So but those things are really helping me with dealing with PCOS. I know I've heard some people say that taking a supplement called chromium helps me, or helps them, I'm sorry, not me. But like I was saying earlier, you want to make sure that you're speaking with your doctor and that you're being informed and making sure what you're putting into your body is not doing any harm to you. So making sure that you're communicating with your doctor when you're trying supplements is so important. But like I said, I have heard chromium. B12 helped me when I was taking metformin, because it did cause me to have a lot of low energy days. And with having depression, it was just a whole bad combination. But B12 is good. There's also many other things you can do to help with PCOS. For me personally, the exercise and the eating balanced meals has been the most effective for me. As far as like the hair growth though, I haven't really found anything that's non-medicinal that helps with that. I just have a wax kit and I just make sure I stay on top of like waxing my face and stuff. So I really don't have any suggestions as far as the hair part of things go. I don't have any issues with hair loss, thankfully, but a tip I will give with hair care just in general is to be careful the products you're putting in your hair. Be careful with the tension around your head. Avoid tight ponytails, clips that pull your edges, bobby pins, stuff like that, especially because with PCOS you can have that baldness. And for women, having your hair in those constant buns, updos, those things can really break and damage our hair. So that is a tip that I would suggest as far as that symptom goes. Like I said, I don't really luckily deal with that, so I don't have anything beyond that. But that is just me personally, what I do with my hair. So watching your products, watching the tension you're putting on your hair, also being careful with bleaching and things. Obviously, I ignored that because my hair is a little damaged from bleaching, but it's getting there. I'm doing different steps to get my curls back. But yeah, I really hope this helped to bring some awareness to PCOS. It is such a common condition, but it's one that many people don't know about, and it's one that I had never heard about until I was diagnosed with it. And it was honestly scary because I was like, whoa, cyst, like cancer? That's what my brain said. But it's not usually that serious as long as you're getting it taken care of, you're keeping on top of it. The biggest risk that I feel that came out of me being diagnosed with PCOS is diabetes, because diabetes runs in both sides of my family. I didn't have the best diet when I was younger. I missed meals. I would snack. It was bad. I don't know how I haven't had diabetes. Luckily though, my levels are pretty good. Like I said, when I did that 8-week class, I checked my levels. So I'm not just blindly not taking metformin and just hoping for the best. I am making sure my levels are being checked. I'm making sure I'm keeping my sugar intake down. I'm still having some sugars, of course, but I'm just making sure I'm responsible with how I'm treating myself. I really hope this helped to bring some awareness to PCOS. It is such a common condition, but it's one that many people don't know about, and it's one that I had never heard about until I was diagnosed with it. And it was honestly scary because I was like, whoa, cyst, like cancer? That's what my brain said, but it's not usually that serious as long as you're getting it taken care of, you're keeping on top of it. The biggest risk that I feel that came out of me being diagnosed with PCOS is diabetes, because diabetes runs in both sides of my family. I didn't have the best diet when I was younger. I missed meals. I would snack. It was bad. I don't know how I haven't had diabetes. Luckily, though, my levels are pretty good. Like I said, when I did that 8-week class, I checked my levels. So I'm not just blindly not taking metformin and just hoping for the best. I am making sure my levels are being checked. I'm making sure I'm keeping my sugar intake down. I'm still having some sugars, of course, but I'm just making sure I'm responsible with how I'm treating myself. And if you have any questions, even if you just want to talk, because I know a lot of people have reached out to me because I've always been so vocal about PCOS, but I've had a lot of friends reach out to me with their struggles about infertility, just to vent, just to talk about it, like, hey, this is my symptoms, how do you deal with this? So if you have any questions, concerns, anything that I can answer for you, you can always reach out to me on here, any social media you have me on. If you don't have my social media, I will give it to you. But yes, so any questions, concerns, I got you. And once again, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. I hope you learned something. I hope this is informative, and I really hope we can raise better awareness and bring more research for PCOS because it is so important. But thank you so much for your time. Happy hump day, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.